Hi, I'm Brooke Nelson from Atavis Incorporated, and in this short video I would like to demonstrate how you can use Evernote with rootsTrust to import document and multimedia files as well as website links. If you don't presently use Evernote but would like to, you can open a free Evernote account at evernote.com. You can then download the Evernote client program for Windows or Mac OS. There is no client for Linux. However, in a future release of rootsTrust, we will be providing an Evernote add-on that looks and functions very much like the Evernote Windows client. If you are an experienced rootsTrust user, you know that you can link files and websites to most rootsTrust objects, that is, persons, families, events, sources, places, etc. Clearly, the most convenient way to do this is via drag and drop. All you need is one or more file cabinets, which are simply folders on your hard drive that you have designated for storing the genealogy files that you link to rootsTrust objects. Now you can use Evernote as either a primary or secondary repository for files and websites that you drag and drop onto rootsTrust. By primary repository, I mean that instead of storing files in file cabinets and websites in the database, everything is sent to Evernote for storage. By secondary repository, I mean that files are stored in file cabinets and are also sent to Evernote. Similarly, websites are stored in the database and sent to Evernote as well. rootsTrust comes with Evernote interoperability disabled by default. Let's turn it on. We do this by invoking the Preferences form and clicking on the left panel button labeled Evernote. Now we select the checkbox labeled Use Evernote. Notice that when checked, the Evernote button on the main toolbar becomes enabled. That is, its color changes from gray to green. When unchecked, the Evernote button becomes gray again. Next, we select a drag and drop destination. The default is Always Ask. I'm going to leave that option unchanged. It causes a small menu form to be displayed each time you drop a file or a website on an appropriate rootsTrust target zone. The other two destinations are Evernote only and default location and Evernote. The default location for files is a file cabinet, but for websites, it's the database. The last thing we can do is to specify a default notebook for this rootsTrust database. If you don't name a notebook, Evernote will put everything you send to it into its default notebook, wherever that may be. It is recommended that you have a separate notebook for each rootsTrust database that you have. The reason for this is that rootsTrust uses its unique numeric object IDs, such as person ID, event ID, family ID, etc., to unambiguously identify an object to Evernote. So, in the sample Abraham Lincoln database, Old Abe is assigned the person ID of 1, whereas in my personal rootsTrust database, person ID 1 is occupied by my oldest son. So to prevent getting a copy of the Gettysburg Address in Evernote when I display my son's birth event in rootsTrust, I have a separate Evernote notebook for each database. Now let's import a few items. First, I make sure that Evernote is running. The toolbar button is a toggle, so it appears depressed after you launch Evernote. Notice that Evernote responded by displaying a list of notes it has for tag person ID equals 1, which of course is Abe Lincoln, at least in Notebook Lincoln. I have on my desktop a file I downloaded from the internet that I would like to link to my rootsTrust Abraham Lincoln database. It contains an image of Lincoln's handwritten draft of the Gettysburg Address. Before I proceed, let's take a look at Lincoln's document folder in the file cabinet. As you can see, there is no file named Draft of Gettysburg Address there. Now I double-click on the oration event in Abe Lincoln's event summary to open up the event detail form. Evernote jumps into action again, telling us that it has 3 notes for tag event ID 59. 59 being the event ID of Abraham Lincoln's oration event, which we can see here in the hidden fields. These notes are multimedia files, or photos in plain English. Next, I select the Documents tab for the oration event. And once again, Evernote chimes in and tells us that it finds no notes with tags Document and Event ID 59. But that is about to change. Now I drag the draft file from my desktop and prepare to drop it on the Documents tab. Before I release the mouse button, I can press the Control key to change the operation from move to copy. I opt for the move. Then I get to see the menu form I mentioned above. I choose the second option, File Cabinet plus Evernote. Now Evernote displays the file and lists all the tags assigned to it. The tags ending in ID are for rootsTrust use, whereas the other tags are there for your use when you do Evernote queries outside of rootsTrust. Evernote users will know what I'm talking about. If you can remember the object IDs of your database objects, feel free to use them in those queries. If we take another look at Lincoln's document folder in the file cabinet, we'll find that the file was moved from the desktop into this folder. The skinny column on the left side of the Documents table is the Evernote status column. If you mouse over the question mark, you get an explanation of the symbols that can appear there. As you see, the plus sign means File Cabinet plus Evernote. If I select the entry, and right-click the mouse, I get a pop-up menu. If I execute the Detach from Evernote command, rootsTrust forgets that the document is also in Evernote. But Evernote does not. That's because Evernote does not permit a third-party program like rootsTrust to delete notes. You must do that manually, which I will do now. Next, I delete the file from rootsTrust. The file is still in the file cabinet, but rootsTrust has forgotten about it. Let's move the file from the file cabinet back onto the desktop and re-import it with a different option. This time I'll select Evernote only and an E appears in the status column, indicating that the only copy of the file that rootsTrust knows about is in Evernote. The original file remains on the desktop even though the drag and drop type was move. We really don't move files to Evernote, we copy them. Let's close the event detail window and double-click the census event. The Documents tab shows an image file that is located in a file cabinet only. I want to send a copy of this file to Evernote, so I right-click the mouse and select Add to Evernote. Then a plus sign shows up in the status column and Evernote proudly displays the census image. Unfortunately, it is not possible at this time to programmatically import a note from Evernote into rootsTrust. You would have to do that manually. The last thing I would like to show you is that these procedures also apply to websites. So I'll display the pertinent Websites tab on the Events panel. And now I'll drag a website link from my browser to the table. Then I'll select Database plus Evernote, and a new entry appears in the table with a plus sign next to it. Now I can bring up this website in my browser from either rootsTrust or Evernote. What I have demonstrated to you in this video applies to all the file and website tables in rootsTrust, and there are quite a few of them. If you wish to keep things simple, you can attach files and websites directly to the person. But for those who prefer more granularity, you can link files and websites to events, families, sources, repositories, places, and venues. Please check out the other rootsTrust demo videos on YouTube. They are also all available from rootsTrust's main menu.